Greetings and welcome to week 6. We are pretty much halfway through this semester. Congratulations. I first wanted to start off by just sharing my thoughts about the group work and your individual papers. Well done. Well done. Good inclusions of the classic scientific management theory as well as political economics and some of the other theories that you all mentioned. Good definitions of organization and what it is and how it operates. I think that is critical in terms of really being able to put together and understand the concepts of macro practice. So well done. In addition, grades are up to date. The grading weighted total score or scale has been fixed, thank God. So the grades are up to date as far as today. If you all would be so kind and judicious in terms of reading the feedback and comments that I have provided, and then reaching out if you have additional questions or concerns, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, strong work with the group voice thread. Insightful information was provided, so thank you all for your work on that. That was done well. So this week, we are going to cover chapters 8 and 9. Chapter 8 talks specifically about management and how it is designed and its significance. So again, being familiar with what an organization is and how it operates is imperative for the management design at certain organizations and agencies. And so basically, what this chapter is going to dive into is how management is how do they achieve their organizational goals, and what is the process in which they adhere to in order to ensure access to resources, for their clientele, and the importance of effective planning to meet the needs of the clients that they will be serving. In addition, we will also cover bureaucratic systems. And this has a bunch of layers to it, and the systems vary depending. And there are also a lot of challenges and pitfalls for social workers or practitioners working in these types of organizations. And so, since there are variations, what I would like to call is red tape, right? So, an example of the red tape would be for me. Before I came to academia, I worked at Child Protective Services in Sacramento, California. I was the first extended foster care social worker, or AB-12 social worker. And basically, in this program, it allowed foster youth or emerging foster youth who would traditionally exit the child welfare system at 18 to remain in the system until reaching the age of 21. In doing so, this organization, this government entity, believed that they would be able to ensure that these youth had been equipped with the skill set for independence, right? So that they could live 18 and beyond and do it in such a way that they could transition successfully into mainstream society. So keeping them in the system a little bit longer at their choice, voluntarily, they would be able to achieve this because the dynamics of the social worker-client relationship would shift. And so this is what they aim to do. And mind you, it was a relatively new program, so I'm going to give them that. However, the example that I would like to share with you is that since this program was new, and you had youth who traditionally wouldn't be in the system after 18, we had out there something that they call the Children's Receiving Home. And so basically the Children's Receiving Home is like a shelter. It's a place where kids, adolescents, young adults go when they are in need of placement. And so I had this 19-year-old young lady who so happened to be pregnant, previous prostitute, but she was in the extended foster care program. So as a result, it is the CPS's responsibility to ensure that she has housing, suitable, stable housing. And so she had been terminated from her foster home placement, and she had to go to the receiving home. And during this time, they couldn't secure her placement. They couldn't find her anywhere to go. Her foster mother no longer wanted her to be at her residence. And since the program was fairly new, everybody was uncertain about how the placements would go. This young lady so happened to be about, 5 to 6 months pregnant. And since they couldn't find her placement and they refused to put her in one of the dorms where the other adolescents and young adults live, they had her sleeping in the lobby of the children's receiving home. Unacceptable. On so many levels, and it's a social justice issue. So me being the social worker, my job is to advocate, and that's what I intend to do. So I have reached out to Community Care License because I too am bound by the Social Work Code of Ethics, and she is officially, a ward of the court. So that means that jurisdiction is on CPS. The judge, the social worker, the program, they're all legally responsible for this young lady, and for their failure to adhere to the proper policies and procedures didn't sit well with me, ethically and morally. So at this time, I had reached out to Community Care Licensing to file a complaint. The young lady had came to me and informed me of what was going on. I reached out to the children's receiving home to, verify that this was in fact true. And upon ascertaining feedback from them, it was. And this is not fair for a child, a young adult, to be treated in such a manner. This girl who was pregnant was sleeping on the lobby floor. She had not eaten in several days, and she did not have access to a toothbrush, toothpaste, a shower, or anything. So I proceeded to call Community Care Licensing. Since the program is relatively new, nobody had an idea of what to do. So although I requested to remain anonymous through this process, considering that I did work for CPS, that did not happen. I was contacted by the powers that be regarding me filing a complaint. And I had to simply, stand my ground in terms of, what we are charged with doing, the role that we now play in this adolescent or young adult's life, and how we dropped the ball. And so that was something that they didn't want to hear. And basically they said that it was like I was calling CPS on myself. But, when you're working for a government entity or any organization, there are rules, there are regulations, there are policies, that you have to adhere to. And having a caseload of 35 to 40, it's imperative that you figure out how to do the right thing all the time for every client that you serve. And so for me, it was more about ensuring that the policies and the procedures were done in a way that were humane, and it offered this adolescent or young adult some reprieve in terms of how the system was going to support her in her endeavors to secure housing. And so when we talk about management, what we're really talking about is processes, and we're talking about how you balance your ethics and how you balance that with the policies and procedures, that are in place at the organization or entity. So we have to understand a little bit more about how we work within systems. Do we want to ameliorate social inequities? Absolutely. We want to do that for all the people we serve. That's just who we are as social workers. And another part of this process would be reducing confusion, because everybody is confused and nobody really knew at this point what the proper procedures was. I knew that a person that's in the care and custody of Children Protective Services should not be sleeping on the floor in a lobby. I knew that. I knew that we were charged with, ensuring that she eats and she has access to the things that she needs access to hygienic wise. I knew that. That's common knowledge, right? But we can't assume that common sense is common all the time. So I think when we look at systems, it's necessary to ensure that the individuals and families and people that we're serving have access. I think that's one of the important things, that they do need access to the necessary services, whether that's food stamps, Medi-Cal, housing, whatever. We want to limit some disdainment of people's desire to reach out and solicit support and assistance from systems that are not adequately equipped to manage the individuals and the clientele or population that they are charged with serving. In addition to that, we are going to talk about behavioral patterns. And some of these behavioral patterns you may experience yourself, or you may know somebody who has experienced them. In addition to that, we're going to learn a little bit more about conflict. And there are 7 different steps to conflict, so we're going to explore that a little bit more. We're going to talk about empowerment, diversity, what type of social worker you want to be. Is it going to be quality over quantity or quantity over quality? Because at this stage in the game, you get to determine what type of social worker you're going to be. Yes, you depending on where you are located, like what organization or system you're working for, you're going to have to balance a caseload. So that caseload could be anywhere from 3 to 50. I don't know. It depends on where you're placed, but you're going to have to learn how to manage that. And my advice to you all would be to manage it with some integrity. Like, because you have a large caseload, that don't mean you get to take a couple steps off on this person, a couple steps away from this person. You have to exhibit continuity in the services that you are going to provide. That is going to determine the type of social worker you're going to be. Are you going to take shortcuts? Are you going to try to finesse the system? Because at the end of the day, your integrity, your moral virtue is all that you are going to have in this career. So it's important that you do things right, even if it takes a little bit more time to do it the right way. And so you get to determine the type of social worker you're going to be. We're going to talk about empowerment. We're going to talk about diversity. And when we talk about diversity, that does not necessarily just mean ethnicity. I think sometimes when we think of diversity, we think of, African Americans, Black folk. We think about Latina populations. Diversity is more than that. I think diversity includes how you identify yourself. What is your culture? What environment are you, encompassed by? Those are other avenues to define what diversity looks like. So that's pretty much what we're going to be discussing in Chapter 8. In Chapter 9, we're going to talk about theories, more theories. You guys are going to be theory experts at the end of this week, right? So we're going to talk about structural theories, socio systems, symbolic interactional theories, conflict theories, empowerment theories, ecological theories. And you guys are going to define and keep defining what community is and what it looks like in a rural area versus an urban area, because The way that services are implemented and executed are going to look different based on that particular environment. We're going to learn about the uniqueness of different variations of communities, and just how resolution and conflict are manifested and how then they are resolved. We're going to also learn an operating definition for client empowerment. That's going to be, impeccable, a flawless opportunity for you all to see what that looks like and how you can then implement it as part of your toolkit as you're building the foundation of your social work career. And again, diversity is not just about, like I said, ethnicity. So these theories are going to help us learn how to connect all the dots and tie everything together, and so it'll make sense. And so once you understand these concepts, these critical concepts, then we can begin to have critical conversations about what this is going to look like moving forward as you all grow into professionals. So that is pretty much it for this week. We're going to cover chapters 8 and 9. For this week, we're going to really dive into human behavior management and just the environmental context of organizations, because organization is a multidisciplinary platform. And it's going to be a lot of opportunities to work interprofessionally with others, but everybody has to know what lane they're in so that they can stay in their lane and do their part and just work collaboratively with others. And so that is pretty much it for this week. I hope you all have a wonderful week. And by all means, please feel free to reach out to me if you all have questions or concerns. All right. Have a good week. Bye-bye.